Hello and welcome to the Equipping the Saints radio talk show. This is your host, Apostle Marcus Beckton, and thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. I feel like today is a very exciting day, and I pray that everyone is having a wonderful day on this day today. The month of April is the National Autism Awareness Month, and I felt that befitting to be able to bring some awareness as this is the thing that takes place in this month, and I felt it befitting to bring some awareness. And so I wanted to sit down and talk with some people that are in the middle of this and that are dealing with this on a daily basis. And today I have three wonderful ladies, two of which have children, son and daughter, that are autistic, and then my third guest has a son who has Down syndrome. So today we have with us Miss Shauna Monroe. She has a daughter, and Miss Lesvia Chance, who has a son. Both of those are autistic, and Miss Denise Hernandez, whose son has Down syndrome. Welcome, you ladies, to the Equipping the Saints radio talk show. We're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen. Amen. As I forestated, and there's several questions, and I thank you so much again for being here. The CDC, Center for Disease Control, I ran across some information that they had, and they said that 1 out of 42 boys and 1 out of 189 girls are diagnosed in the United States with autism. And that's some interesting information. And so you are almost right in the middle. You're dealing with this on a daily basis. And so the show today will be kind of twofold, dealing with autism as well as dealing with Down syndrome. And so my first question that I want to really ask you guys is, what is autism?
Okay, autism is a disorder that impacts not just children, but there are some adults that have autism as well, and it impacts their social lives. It gives them a disability, some may call it, to be developmentally delayed. It delays their development in all aspects. It can impact their fine motor skills, how they use their muscles, and it strongly impacts their speech and their behavior.
Okay. Now, Ms. Monroe, and thank you for that information. Now, basically, is there any type of cure or corrective measures when it relates to that of autism?
No, sir. As of right now, there is no cure. Of course, just like anything else, there are many things that are used to treat it. It may work, it may not. Nothing is 100% as of right now.
Okay. Now, just kind of input. Have you either you ladies, Ms. Chance or even Ms. Monroe, have either you ladies have you actually used any of the helpful measures that they have out there, and have you kind of seen any kind of change if you have?
I'll let Liz answer first.
Can you ask the question again?
Have you the measures Ms. Monroe mentioned about the measures basically that they have some things that kind of it helps a little bit, I guess, more or less. Have you had an opportunity, or has that been presented to you to basically use for your son to help? And if you have you seen any kind of any benefit from it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different help out there. Along with, like, they have therapy for speech. It helps them, learn different things through it. And there's also medicine, but a lot of people don't like to give the kids medicine, but, it really helps them control their ways of how they act and concentrate on what they're learning.
Okay. Ms. Monroe, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, of course. There's always medicine to treat, and it's basically a psychiatric medicine. Like I said, it's not 100%, but what it can do is it can kind of calm them at certain times. As long as you keep it in their bloodstream, for the most part, there is some type of benefit, but there will be good days and there will be bad days. As far as the therapy, particularly speech, the good thing about the speech is it not only helps them to learn verbiage, but it helps them to express themselves, because most of them are nonverbal, or they will have a very small vocabulary. So the good thing about speech is it also helps them express themselves, through times of frustration, as well as work on their vocabulary.
Okay. Now, and I'm gonna tap into Down syndrome, but is it safe to say that every child diagnosed with autism that they're not the same?
That is very true.
Is that safe to say? Okay, so their actions and their ways are totally, not totally different, but they're not always the same. You can't just draw the line and say, okay, this is what we can expect.
Right.
When the child, okay.
They will have a lot of similarities, especially with behaviors. You'll see a lot of similarities, but each child is an individual child. And also some of the things they go through are in phases. So if they're acting out in a certain way this month, 5 months later, it may be something totally different.
Oh, wow. Okay. Also, we have on the line Miss Denise Hernandez, and her son has Down syndrome. And Miss Hernandez, can you share with us basically, and I know most people already know pretty much well, but just kind of give us a general thing on what Down syndrome is.
Yes. Down syndrome is sometimes known as trisomy 21, and pretty much it is a genetic disorder that chromosome 21 has there's 3 copies of the chromosome number 21. And when this occurs, the children with Down syndrome usually have like low muscle tone. Some of the physical features, they may have slanted eyes. Their tongues are a lot larger. So sometimes they drool a lot. And they're a little bit smaller than what is considered, I guess, a normal child. So like my son, he's 10, but I have a 7-year-old, and they're the same height.
Okay. So, and I'm glad you said 10, because that was going to be my next question. Your son is 10. Miss Chance, your son is how old?
He's 10.
He's 10. Okay. And Miss Monroe, your daughter is how old?
She is 8.
She's 8. Okay. Now, ladies, I know that, and correct, and if I'm incorrect, please help me out. Most of the time, when it comes to autism, is it safe to say that it's normally detected after birth? Can it be detected while a mother is pregnant with the child, or is it normally detected after, and when I mean after birth, not just like, while you're still in the hospital or while he's in the infant stage, but is it safe to say that normally it's after the child is born and it progresses on, that, that the signs and symptoms comes about that you see, or is it something that can be detected in the womb?
Well, I'm not sure, Apostle, if it's something that anyone has ever had detected. I do know that there's probably more chances where it's detected afterwards, because the bulk of the disorder is the developmental delays, which you can't really see until the child is here.
Okay. Yeah. Now, while you're talking, what were some of the signs and symptoms? When was your daughter diagnosed with autism?
Okay, unfortunately, Sierra was not diagnosed until she was 5 years old. We went through about 2.5 years worth of testing, where at the end of the testing I was told, well, we'll just wait till next year, to diagnose, so we want to be sure. But we knew that there was something wrong when she was 6 months old. We just did not know what it was.
Wow. Wow. Miss Chance, when was your son diagnosed?
He was diagnosed 2 years ago. It really takes forever for them to run tests, but I knew when he was like maybe 9 months. He wasn't walking yet. He didn't want to, crawl. He was just late, to do all that until 18 months. But I noticed it at that time that, something's not. And then he wasn't talking, like saying mama. The little main words that the baby start talking from the beginning. That's another sign right there that, I was paying attention to that. But he was diagnosed.
Apostle, that's very true. Some of the signs that she was saying, like, babies hold their bottles, they roll over, they sit up, all these things. Sierra didn't do any of those things either. She didn't sit up, I think, until like 18 months, and she didn't walk until she was 2. But these are things that not so much of you being in denial, but there are things that you may not necessarily pay attention to at that time because each child, they learn at their own rate. But when you go to your 6-month checkup with your pediatrician, they give you a thick paperwork to fill out, and it's basically like survey-based, and you're supposed to check off, my child's doing this, my child's not doing that. And out of maybe 10 pages, there was only maybe 3 things that she was doing at the age of 6 months, and that's when we knew that something wasn't right.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, Ms. Hernandez, as far as it relates to Down syndrome, now, when was your son? When was this detected? Was this detected? Did they find this while you were pregnant, or was this? Did you notice it after birth that your son had Down syndrome?
I found out that Nevin had Down syndrome when I was pregnant. I was at my ultrasound appointment, my first ultrasound appointment, and I knew there was something wrong because the ultrasound tech kept looking at his heart. She would go do his other measurements, and then she would look at his heart again. So she excused herself and brought in another doctor, and he came and was looking and told me that they believed he had ADHD, and that it is normally associated with Down syndrome. So I had to go to the doctor and get a test done called an amniocentesis, and it's where they stick a needle into your belly and they take a sample of the amnio fluid and just to get the baby's DNA, and that confirms that he has Down syndrome. But they said there was a small chance that he didn't have it, but with the results from the testing and the defect that they saw on the ultrasound, there was a big chance that he was going to have Down syndrome. Wow.
And so from that, that he was diagnosed. Wow, that's really amazing in that perspective. And I just want to pinpoint, and I said this to you ladies earlier. I really believe that it's almost an anointing that or a gifting that everybody can't have or can't be able to have the patience to be able to deal with this. And so I think it takes special people to do that, and God knows how to put things. And sometimes you may kind of feel like, well, God, why me? But sometimes I feel like that God He knows who can handle it, who's going to treat them right, who's going to take good care of them. And I just salute you, ladies. While we're in the middle of this broadcast, I just salute you, ladies, in everything that you do, and taking care of your children, that your child rather that has special needs, that I'm sure that is totally different from the rest of your children, and so and the Lord will bless you in the long run on that. I'm gonna move right along with this. How have you adapted to this? How have you ladies adapted to this? Now, you know, your children they're over 5, and one is 8, the other 2 are 10. How are you adapting in handling this? And I know, Ms. Monroe, you said that things change, and you know, and almost I guess it's kind of almost safe to say that it's almost like a different thing every day, or every week, or things, you know, progressively change. And but I'm sure you guys have a support system. If it's nothing but people encouraging you, but I'm sure you guys have some type of support system in place to help out, you know, in the process of time. Before you answer that, now, all of your children are in school, as far as your special needs kids. They are in some type of school. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's good. So how do you handle, Ms. Monroe? How do you handle all of the changes and things of that nature? And I'm sure it's not easy, but just kind of, you know, tell us a little bit how you're handling with your child.
Well, you know, I would be lying if I sat here and tell you that it was easy, because I mean, there have been some days where I've asked, why me? As far as a support system, unfortunately, I do not have a big support system. You know, I came up pretty much on my own self. So I do have a 15-year-old daughter who, although she gets stressed out at some times, she's like the world's greatest big sister. So that's my support. Also, us ladies, as well as we know quite a few other mothers of special needs, we try to get together, sometimes with the kids and sometimes without the kids, just to support. As far as public outings, we have to be very mindful of the environment we take them in, not so much as because of people understanding, but because a lot of them have sensory issues. There are certain things that trigger their behaviors. So we have to be mindful of lighting, you know, noise levels and things of that nature. So, you know, it's a learning process. A lot of things we've learned, you know, being that they're 8, 9, 10 years old, we've learned, but some things we learn as we go. We just have to be very mindful, and we have to be ready. Like, I can think of a time that me and Les went to a sensory movie one time. I believe you probably remember, Les, where I was prepared in some areas and some I was not. And so my daughter had a moment, and Les comes out with her purse with, here's some wipes, here's some cookies, here's some juice. I mean, she had everything. I'm like, man. So, you know, we just kind of put our heads together and we just make it work.
Okay. Wow. That's amazing. And anyone want to add to that, Ms. Chance, Ms. Hernandez? You want to add to anything to that?
Well, you want to go ahead?
Go ahead, Denise.
Oh, all right. Okay, yeah. My son, you know, he has Down syndrome, so he's the same when it comes to, like, being in public places. When there's loud noises, I think a big crowd gives him anxiety, and it's like he shuts down. He starts screaming. His behavior changes. When he's in a more private environment and it's just mainly me and my daughter, he's a little bit more relaxed and he's not as frustrated, and his behavior is a lot better in a more secluded and private environment compared to being out in public. So there are a lot of places that I try to avoid because I know that if I take him there, it's going to be very difficult for me and for him as well. So a lot of places I don't go to if it's a heavily populated area.
Wow, that's amazing. Miss Chance, you want to add some to it?
Yes, I have isolated myself. I feel isolated because there's a lot of stuff that we had to change for our kids, and there's not a big support system. You would think we would have it, but we don't. Well, I don't also. But we have a group that all these autism, mothers or special needs, we have a group where we can get out and, do anything, and we help each other out when we go somewhere. I also can't go to certain areas with him either. He doesn't want to go anywhere, but I make him anyway because I don't want to keep him in the house. And I tell him, just come on, let's just try to go to the park. He might not want to play, but, I'll sit with him until he gets ready to play. Or, there's a lot of different things that we had to, change our routines or what we can do and what we cannot do. When I'm able to go to the mall is when he's, with his aide, or, if his dad got him for a day or whatever. That's when I hurry up and get to the places where I'm not able to go with him. Mm-hmm. I take advantage of that. And movies, there's no way in the world, unless they have the sensory movie thing where they do it once a month, and we go to the movies in the morning, and, we enjoy that. Mm-hmm. But, it's a process.
Wow. What now, you mentioned this, you said the sensory, what is that?
It's a sensory-friendly thing that the movie theaters now are doing for special needs kids. And sensory, I mean, they have the light is up because kids they don't like to be in the dark. They have to, they have to have a little bit of light. The sound could be a little bit lower than usual. And they are able to run around if they're, if they're freely. They can stand up and, nobody's going to judge you. And, watch the movie and enjoy the movie.
Okay.
And it's also at a discounted rate.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it's at a discount. Wow. So they have that in the movie theaters. They're in Fayetteville. I'm assuming in a lot of other places, but
they have it at Millstone and Hope Mills, and they have it at Market Fair Road in Fayetteville, and it's once a month. It's normally, Les, is it correct, the first Saturday of every month at 10?
Yeah, and now the new theater, Patriots 14, is starting to do it too.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, they're doing it too. But I always let Shauna know when the movies are, because sometimes they'll put it on or they do not mention it, and then I ask them questions just in case we miss it.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It's very nice.
Okay, very good. Let me ask you a question, ladies. Do you ever get over the stares, the funny looks, things of that nature? Do you ever do you ever get past that when you have your child in the public and they either begin to act out or things go on? Do you ever just kind of get to the point of either a numbing that you just don't even pay that attention anymore, or does that affect you, or do you ever get past that effect?
Well, you know what, Apostle? For me, I personally just brush it off. It doesn't really happen too often. At this point, you come around a lot of people that at some point they'll understand that there's a special situation there. And if you do get stares, it's normally from someone younger or someone that doesn't know any better. Now, my oldest daughter, she gets livid. She's very overprotective of her sister, and she pretty much goes off. But the interesting thing is they had a special needs dance a couple of weeks ago, and me and Les took the kids out there, and they had these little cards. I want to say I posted a picture of them on Facebook. It was a pack of cards for 25 cards in each packet, and it basically was a card to hand out to people if you come across that situation where someone is staring or they act like they just don't understand. The card basically gives them awareness of autism, and you basically can just politely hand it to them, to help them with their staring or whatever problem they're having with how your child's behaving at that moment.
Wow.
I think I like to say that society has the problem, not the child. So
right.
It used to bother me in the beginning, all the stares and, oh, my God, that's a bad child. If he was mine, I would spank him, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't bother me anymore. I already I shut them down and, I stay calm and I talk to my child and say, I handled it however I handled it, but, people they're gonna stay regardless.
Right, that's true, and I'm like what I like what Miss Hernandez just said, that society has that issue, that problem, and not the child, and some people are not understanding. I know when it comes to your friends, and the reason I ask that, and you pretty much answered it. I know a lot of times, your friends and your families who knows, and have been around enough, I'm sure, to really kind of swallow that pill and know that, okay, this is what we can expect. But I know sometimes, and again, from sometimes our younger people and people that don't understand, because I'm a firm believer that what people don't understand, they have a tendency to reject, or they have a tendency not to want to deal with it or handle it. And so I feel like that it is very important, shows like this and things like that, to really get that information out and make people aware that, for one, this is going on inside of a person, and this is what's taking place. And it is not contagious, but, it's something that we have to deal with the hand. As I heard someone say one time before, you have to deal with the hand that's been dealt with you, and just kind of move on, and we can either make it bitter or we can make it better. And so that I like your attitude, ladies, that you have as it relates to that, and as you're dealing with your child, and that is very needful and very appreciative. And I'm gonna move right along, and I see now that we're gonna have to bridge this on over to the second show, because I have a couple more other questions that I want to ask, and it's going to kind of give us a freedom to expand. But so if you would hold the line for just a second, ladies. Ladies and gentlemen, our time has come to an end for today's broadcast. We've been having a wonderful conversation with Miss Shauna Monroe, Miss Lesvia Chance, and Miss Denise Hernandez. And all three of these ladies have special needs children, and we've been talking about simply raising special needs kids, and has been a wonderful conversation that we have been having. And even though our time has come to an end, but we're going to continue this conversation on next week's broadcast, which will be Thursday, again at 6 p.m. And so you don't want to miss as we complete this conversation with these ladies as it relates to that of autism and as it relates to that of Down syndrome. And so we again thank you for tuning in today's broadcast. And until next week's broadcast, consider yourself have been equipped. Shalom.